Welcome to your Scotland Rugby News Six Nations campaign review after frustrating defeat against Ireland at the weekend. Scotland falling to a 17-13 loss over in Dublin as Ireland retained the championship. I'm joined by Steph Braun and Gavin Harper to look back on the campaign as a whole. First of all, Steph, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good, thank you. I think that the game at the weekend was perhaps closer than we had envisaged, which was a positive theme. But keen to kind of discuss more of the analysis and dig into the performance a bit more and how this campaign has really gone overall.
Yeah, and Gav, you were over there for us. How was your trip? And good to have you on. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, good trip. Another good trip to end a Six Nations, and yeah, as you said, good to see Scotland making it a wee bit more competitive than I think many, including us on Saturday morning, had maybe given them credit for. So no, fair play. Although it was another defeat, I thought they were better than they were in Rome, but that bar wasn't particularly high. But yeah, as you said, as Steph said, we'll get into all the whys and wherefores of the Six Nations and another frustrating campaign for Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to put your point across, folks, please don't be shy. Stick it in the comments and we'll try and get through as many of your comments as possible. But yeah, let's start with the game first of all, Steph, before looking at the campaign overall. As Gav says, I don't think many had high expectations of going over there and turning up and winning against Ireland. It's been certainly a long time since Scotland have done that. Defensively, the team deserved great credit, but they're just lacking in an attacking sense on Saturday.
Yeah, it's like I said, the scoreline was a lot closer than we really thought it would be, and they deserve some credit to staying in the game for 80 minutes, having a chance to take the game at the end. They deserve credit for that, and the defensive performance was excellent. Like I couldn't believe Ireland didn't get over at some of the points. They really emptied themselves in defence, and they deserve credit for that. But this Scotland team have become known as a sort of great entertainers at points, and they are absolutely world class in attack. At times, they can pull rabbits out of hats in attack. And it was disappointing to see that there was a huge amount of inaccuracy in attack, and they were not able to really launch any kind of attacking assault on Ireland. It seemed like a sort of damage limitation performance. It seemed like the most important thing for Scotland going into this was that they didn't get thrashed, and they made sure that didn't happen. They put all the effort into defence, and they made sure that they were in that game. But it never really seemed like to me that, I'm not going to say that they didn't want to win. I think that's a bit far, but it didn't seem to me that they believed that they could win. It almost seemed like every time they tried to launch an attack, they suddenly went, "Oh, we're going away from this not getting thrashed game plan. We're freaking out a bit, panicking." And I just felt like that they didn't believe really that they could win that game. And it was just about damage limitation. I don't know how Gav feels about it, but I just feel that their soul, which is in attack, and the fact that they can go from one of the end of the pitch to the other and pull off great tries, it just wasn't there. And you just have to. It's one of those performances you have to wonder where the team is going.
Think she's got a point there, Gav?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a fair point that it always felt like Scotland were hanging in there. Yeah. But I think I would liken this to 10 years ago when Scotland played teams like, the Richie McCaw, Dan Carter All Blacks team. If Scotland hung in there and were in the game with 20 minutes to go against the number one team in the world, you would have accepted that. But because it's Ireland, there's a change in that mindset that actually we are the same as them. We should be competitive, and I just don't think we're not at their level. There's a clear distinction. Probably South Africa and Ireland are numbers 1 and 2 France maybe a bit behind them with New Zealand, and then there's a load of other countries that can kind of beat each other on their day. So I think actually, to give Scotland some credit, yes, they hung in there well. They took the one chance they did have, but I do agree with Steph that I feel like damage limitation probably felt like the number one job. Let's not get badly beaten, and if we're still in the game, the Hugh Jones try is just two missed tackles. Scotland didn't actually create an awful lot. The frustrating thing for me is that neither did Ireland. We handed them the opportunities to go and score. The first try particularly is just not good enough. And that, I think, is the thing that will stick in the throats of Scotland fans, is that in every game has come down to within a score, and Scotland still make too many basic mistakes, and they turn around and eventually they're going to catch out, and again it happened at the weekend.
Yep, another contentious try. We witnessed one at Murrayfield, of course, against France. The Andrew Porter one, Gavin. Your view on that?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I've seen it all around social media, and it's easy to sit on the telly and find a clip that looks a still of a clip that looks convincingly like it's not a try. When we saw it live in the stadium, I must admit I thought he'd scored. Now I'm not so convinced, and actually it probably feeds into a wider point that I think the standard of the officiating in this year's championship hasn't been at the level that people have come to expect.
Yeah.
I think that was a marginal one, and I think I can see why it was given. Again, if that had been a try for Scotland, I think we would have all been saying it was definitely a try. Because it's gone against us again, we're saying, well, we definitely think it shouldn't have been. So, yeah, it's a difficult one, but I do probably, on the balance, think it probably was a try.
Yeah, certainly a frustrating one. I don't think it was, just to be controversial on that one. What about you, Steph? Are you try or no try for you?
I think it's marginal. I think I can say with Gav. I think in real time it seemed absolutely fine, and then when you look at it again, it looks like he may have dropped it. But I think it was surprising that a previous non-score, as it was deemed by Tide Furlong, was not given. I didn't really get why that wasn't given. I think they said it was a knock-on, but I couldn't see that the ball had gone forward. So it's there is definitely a point about the standard of officiating. And I mean, when we had the Scotland try against France that wasn't given, it took a while for me to see that ball had been convincingly grounded. So it's just, there's a debate to be had of how many times do you deliberate over a clip, and how there's also just a discussion to be had about the communications between the referee and the TMO. What question are we asking? Are we going to do a thing where that it's try yes or no? I've not got an on-field decision. Are we going to see that change because of what's happened in the Scotland-France game? So it might be a tournament to learn a few lessons from in terms of officiating, I think.
Yeah. Steve Adams gets in touch. A couple of comments before he come back to you, Gav. He says it was a mixed bag this year, and he said, I thought they showed a lot of heart against Ireland on Saturday. Yeah, good point, Steve. Yeah, you wanted to come in there, Gav?
Yeah, I was just going to say there was a really interesting moment late on in the game on Saturday that I've never certainly experienced in a stadium before, where Matt Carley had sent Harry Burnt to the sin bin and for the high shot on Finn Russell, and then it was reviewed by the bunker, and he called over the two captains, and actually his decision, his ref's mic was played out to the stadium, so everybody in the stadium knew why it had stayed as a yellow card. And I'd certainly never heard that, and definitely never heard it at Murrayfield. And I think that's the thing that rugby has to get better at. Football's got its problems with VAR. Yeah. Rugby's obviously a lot further down the road with the sort of TMO protocols, but I think we're in danger of ruining the spectacle, spoiling the spectacle for people in the stadium because they've no idea what's going on unless you've shelled out for one of these £10-15 earpieces, and that's not for everybody. So I think that clear communication to people in stadiums is actually really important, because I do think the Tadhg Furlong one, the kind of no try, was not a try, because he loses it forward into somebody else, which, although it didn't look like he's knocked it on, means that in the laws it's essentially classed the same. So I think they've got that right. But yeah, I think it's really important that they engage with supporters and let people know why a decision's been made, rather than just have people guessing.
Yeah. We're going to discuss Gregor Townsend and his future as Scotland coach shortly. But in terms of possible shoots of optimism looking ahead with this squad, Steph, the likes of Stafford, McDowell and Andy Christie, certainly shining lights. Certainly a lot to be admired about those two.
Yeah. Andy Christie in particular, I think, because he's been in a few games in the last stages of the tournament. I think that he should have been in the team a lot sooner. We've seen that he performed so well for Saracens, and I think there were a lot of people urging Townsend to be picking him in the starting lineup a lot earlier, particularly as he dropped somebody like Jamie Ritchie from the starting lineup and as captain. So yeah, Andy Christie is a brilliant ball carrier, and we've seen the effect that he can have on the game, particularly against really physical sides like Ireland. In terms of Stafford McDowell, again, perhaps should have been given the opportunity a bit sooner. We saw his his defensive strengths on Saturday, and again he's a big ball carrier and can deal with the physicality of teams like Ireland. And we lost Sione Tuipulotu halfway through the tournament, and that was a big loss. And I think that Stafford McDowell is more of a similar player to him. Perhaps should have come into the starting lineup instead of Cameron Redpath, who is a great player, but it just isn't quite so physical. So I think that they have been definitely two shining lights, definitely.
Yeah. Right, Gav. I mean, Scotland fared better last year with 3 victories to the name, just 2 this term. There was a lot of optimism once the team went down to Cardiff and won there for the first time in God knows how long. Disappointment, of course, against France, which was touched on controversially. And then victory against England, you're thinking, go on and have a real smashing end to the campaign. However, disappointment with results against Italy and Ireland as well. So what do you make of the campaign overall? Was it one that there's a great sense of belief heading into it, but is it one you're thinking could have done better there?
Definitely. I think, frustrating, I think, because Scotland came into the campaign, disappointing World Cup, but I always felt like everybody else was in a bit of flux in one sense or another. As we said, I think last week, Ireland are without Johnny Sexton now, and France were missing Antoine Dupont, and Warren Gatland's trying to rebuild Wales. Italy appointing a new head coach. England sort of all over the place at times, although they've come good the last couple of weeks. So I really felt like Scotland could have gone into this championship and really had a good go at it. And, there was a lot of people that I kind of know certainly saying, well, if not now, when are Scotland going to be genuine contenders? And that first 42 minutes in Wales was as good as I've seen Scotland play for a long time, although we can judge that against the barometer of where Wales finished in the table. I think since then, and it probably started with that second half in Cardiff, it's just been all tinged with such disappointment because they've just not hit the sort of levels that I think we've come to expect individually, collectively. You finished 4th, 2 wins, same number of wins as Italy. Having lost Italy, I just think it's not good enough now. It's not good enough to say, yeah, okay, we won the Calcutta Cup, great. We beat, Wales. The 2 teams we beat are the 2 teams who've struggled the most in this whole Six Nations. And, Wales was by no means convincing, and we just happened to catch England on their worst performance of the whole championship. So, yeah, it's now not, expectations have raised in the 7 years that Gregor Townsend's been head coach, and he has to be credited for that. I think the question is now, is he going to take us into being genuine contenders?
Mm-hmm.
Can he take Scotland from third and fourth to second and then first? He did it with Glasgow, but it took him a couple of years. I don't know. Jury's very, very much out for me, but I think the performance on Saturday has probably bought him an extra year in the job. I think if Scotland had got blown away by Ireland, I think we would probably be in the market for a new head coach.
He's been in the job just shy of 7 years, Steph. Is now the time to consider a change?
I do think it is, and I think that there are many people out there who have felt like that for a while. Gregor Townsend's been in charge of the team in 2 World Cups, and that each of those World Cups of Scotland have gone out in the group stage. Granted, the last World Cup was a very, very tough group. No one ever really saw us getting out of that due to a really poor draw system. But certainly the 2019 World Cup, we should have been getting out of that group. And there's, in terms of Six Nations campaigns, I mean, this one is probably worse than last year's, and probably one of the worst in the last few years, actually, in terms of where the progress that you feel has been made. And yeah, I think no one is disputing the fact that Townsend has taken this team to a new level. That no one is disputing that. They've had some absolutely massive wins under him, and like I say, their attack and their defense at different points, never together really, at different points, have been world class under him. But like I say, he has never been able to quite get the 2 things working together, and that's what teams who win championships do. So I think it's questionable whether he's done great things with this team, but it's questionable whether he can take them any further. And I don't think that he can. I think we've seen what we're going to see from him. But I think that these players who are talented, extremely skillful, I think they're capable of winning a championship. But I think they need to be given the chance to have that new injection of knowledge and approach from somebody else. Yeah.
You speak to him regularly, Gav. Do you think he believes he can turn this around and can go on and have a really successful campaign next year? I know we're heading into the summer tour and what have you, but do you think he knows he can turn around the fortunes?
I genuinely think he does think he can. I think he believes he's got the credentials to do it and the tools to do it. And I think, some of what he said after the game on Saturday is right. It's not a kind of one-way street that you progress and there's no bumps in the road. You see that with every team. But my worry is that when Scotland play well, they inevitably give most teams a decent game. But this Scotland team has never progressed to being a team that can play badly and win. Mm-hmm. And I always think good teams, even when you're not at your absolute best, good teams find ways of navigating difficult moments. And when the going's got tough for Scotland in this Six Nations, they've inevitably crumbled. That's where I've got my concerns. I think Steph made a fair point there about the 2019 World Cup. We should have got out that group, regardless of the circumstances of having to play Japan immediately after there was the horrific typhoon. But after that campaign, Gregor Townsend, parted company was assistants. So we've tried that. Now we've got to decide, okay, are we going to give somebody a really good run at the 2027 World Cup? Or are we sticking with Gregor because his contract's up the year before? Bringing somebody in last minute for a World Cup doesn't work. And, Australia have proved that. And to an extent, Wales proved that. It's just not an option. So if there's going to be a time, I think it probably is now. Can I see it? Probably not, particularly with the financial situation at Scottish Rugby. I'm not convinced they would want to have to pay somebody for the remainder of a 2-year contract.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You can't see him walking away, Steph, can you?
No, I don't think so. I think that Gregor Townsend's made it pretty clear in the past when he was, deciding on his future. But before he was being offered a new contract, I think that he made it very clear that he's very passionate about this team and desperately wants to take them places. So I can't see him walking away, to be honest. I think like Gav says, I think he believes that there's more in this team. You always hear that. So yeah, I can't see him walking away.
Yeah. Gav, as much as it's a disappointment, of course, we've got a summer tour to look forward to. Trips to Canada, the USA, Chile, and Uruguay. I'm not sure the budget stretches to send you over to these countries, but what should we expect from those games?
New faces, I think. I don't think Finn Russell will be packing his bags for Ottawa and Washington. I can't see that. Look, Gregor spoke a bit about the summer tour after the game on Saturday and basically said as much as Scotland will look to take a load of new players on the tour. I think there's quite a number of players in the Six Nations squad who basically haven't featured at all. They might get a run. But I think this tour, it'll be an interesting one because in 2018, Scotland went to Argentina and played a couple of games, and he really blooded people like George Horn, Adam Hastings, and guy Lewis Carmichael, who's now retired. He got his first couple of caps. But they were against strong opposition. With the greatest respect to all these countries that Scotland are going to play, they are not rugby hotbeds. And Gregor said something after the game about taking players who maybe haven't played huge amounts of professional rugby. And I thought that was interesting because it almost speaks to it being a kind of development tour. And I'm not sure about the concept of these being fully capped internationals if you're giving people a cap who maybe haven't played for Edinburgh or Glasgow yet. I don't know. That, to me, doesn't sit right. But, yeah, I think definitely what to expect. Hopefully for Scotland, straightforward Scotland wins, which is never a given.
Easier said than done.
Exactly. And, plenty of new faces. And even for the likes of us, maybe a bit of Wikipedia researching on some people.
Absolutely. Some other fantastic games culminating in the end of the championship at the weekend. Steph, what a game it was in Cardiff, Italy, winning against Wales 24 points to 21, consigning Wales to a first wooden spoon in 21 years. It has been a horror campaign for Warren Gatland and the Welsh team. For Italy, on the other hand, what an end to the camp. What a very good and positive campaign for them.
Oh, it's excellent. It's so good, so good for the tournament that Italy are undefeated in 3 games. They drew against France, beat Scotland, and then beat Wales. And the draw against France and the win against Wales being away from home. So it absolutely, hopefully, ends the conversation about Italy not being a part of this tournament and just being this team that everyone just brushes aside. And, it's the game that nobody wants to watch, whether it's like, I think France v Italy used to be branded as the game that no one cared about, but hopefully that's gone out the window after that game. It was a really, really excellent game. I was actually watching it with some family friends, and one of them kept rubbing his hands every time that Wales knocked on the ball, but it just doesn't like Wales very much, apparently. But yeah, it's I think it's excellent that Italy have really made progress. I think I can remember myself saying that I thought they were coming at the start of the tournament, and Gav kept sort of grinning at me, going, "Nah." Mm-hmm. Which is statistically is fair enough, but I'm glad that they did come good in the end. And in terms of Wales, we were watching, and they had no game plan for that game. They were absolutely rudderless in the first half. They just, I don't think they ventured into Italy's 22, to be honest, and they just didn't look like they had any plan whatsoever. It was probably one of the worst Wales performances I've seen for much of that game. The scoreline completely flattered them in the end, despite the fact that Italy did switch off, probably because they thought that they could at the end. Because as soon as it was sort of 24-7, I think it was, I think that everybody had mathematically, logically worked out that there was no way Wales could win that game at that point, and Italy knew that, and they obviously didn't care. They just wanted the result. But yeah, the scoreline flattered Wales in the end. It'll be interesting to see how they come back from this, how they respond to this, because this is about, for a lot of people watching the Six Nations, this is about as bad as they'd ever seen Wales. And it'll be interesting to see if they actually do manage to respond and start winning games again, because they've only won one game in the last two Six Nations campaigns, and that was against Italy.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, really, really interesting fixture. And the England-France game was also great as well. I'm sure we can discuss that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this Italy getting their act together, Gav? They're unfortunate not to beat France as well, in all honesty. Is this going to be a 1 year wonder, or can they kick on?
I really, really hope they can kick on. They have to now. They have to back these results up, because 2 years ago they won in Cardiff and it was brilliant. And they hadn't won for 36 Six Nations games or something. And it was great to see, because, as Steph said, it kind of dispelled that notion that we should be relegating teams who finish bottom. Wales have had a terrible year, but they would still beat Georgia, I think. Although Georgia have beaten Wales before, I still think that Wales would have enough in a one-off game that, the idea of relegation isn't as simple as, let's get rid of whoever finishes bottom. For Italy, they've got so many good players, and it's always been a frustration that they've never, until this season, they've not strung these results together. And as I said, to Steph earlier on in the championship, you almost dismiss the Italians because they've underachieved for so long. And they've got some really great, and Lamaro was terrific as captain. Menoncello and Brex have been brilliant. Garbisi and they've just got these players now in really key positions who can guide them around games, and I thought they were comfortable at 24/7, and yeah, they ended up conceding a couple of late tries, but I didn't ever think that they were going to fall away and throw that game away. So yeah, I really, really hope so, and I think it's a great thing for the Six Nations that if there's a competitive Italian team as well as the other five.
Yeah, and like you say, Steph, I think maybe the game of the tournament at the weekend over in France, Thomas Ramos's late penalty, winning it for the French against England narrowly, 33 points to 31. What a game that was. What do you make of it?
Oh, yeah, fantastic game. And I think that England, France over the years in the Six Nations has been sort of one of the bigger games, and used to be the sort of the only game that mattered back in the day in terms of who won the championship. So it was sort of, I think it's a terrible name for the game, but it's known as Le Crunch. I think whoever came up with that needs, I have no idea, but it speaks to the physical affair that those two teams go through, and it really was, and it's I think it's positive to see England having improved. I'm one of these people that tends to think that, I know I'm a Scotland fan, I know that I enjoy it as much as the next person when England lose a game, but I think I'm one of these people that always feels that it's a shame when teams that should be good are not good consistently. It's a shame for competitions and the sport in general. I felt that way about Australia at the World Cup as well. We if we want a good product that people enjoy, we need a good Australia, we need a good England, we need a good France. It was annoying when France were bad in the Six Nations as well for a while. So yeah, the game was really good, and it had a drama from start to finish. You didn't really know who was going to win it until the very end. I thought it was an interesting comment from Steve Borthwick afterwards, who said, "We didn't really lose, we just ran out of time." Well, has anybody ever lost then? And and also, you didn't run out of time. You lost to a France penalty at the end. You were ahead. Too much time. So yeah, bizarre, but no, really exciting game, and a real example of what the Six Nations is about, and it's great entertainment, and it really finished on a high with that fixture, and it credit to both teams as well, because essentially it was a dead rubber in terms of the tournament. So you could be forgiven if they could be forgiven if they sort of dropped off a bit and didn't really take it very seriously, but they did. So credit to both sides.
Yeah, it was some match. Right, Gav, what can people find on the website? If still get that brilliant offer on, you can see it on your screen, folks, on the ticker below, scotlandrugbynews.com/subscribe. Just £1 for 6 months worth of content. We're practically giving it away. But what can people find if they sign up, Gav?
Yeah, some great stuff. Looking back at the game on Saturday, I spoke to Stafford McDowell about his first Six Nations start. Basically, Stafford nearly chucked rugby for life on the family farm a couple of years ago, and now he's playing for Scotland. So, yeah, it was great to get a blather with him after the game. And a couple of really interesting pieces from our new columnist, Rob Robertson. He's given his thoughts on Scotland's summer tour, and while everybody else is off to play the Southern Hemisphere giants, what will we gain from heading to Uruguay and Chile? And Rob's written a really interesting piece about Gregor Townsend's future, and basically says that we need an independent review of the situation with the Scotland squad. So, and I think that's probably a fair point. He makes some really interesting arguments in the piece. So, yeah, all that, loads more, and loads more to come throughout the week from Edinburgh and Glasgow, who are in URC action, and looking ahead as well to the start of the Women's Six Nations, which kicks off. Scotland are in Wales on Saturday.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. So now's the time to sign up, folks. Head over to www.scotlandrugbynews.com/subscribe. Huge thanks to Steph and to Gav for joining me on the show this afternoon. And thank you to you all for watching. And we'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.